Love, betrayal, and murder, nothing prepares you for a story like this. A picture-perfect couple, a twin sister lurking in the background, and a Valentine's Day proposal that went horribly, brutally wrong. Jade Thompson had it all, a thriving career as a Texas influencer, a loyal boyfriend, and an unbreakable bond with her twin sister, Janelle. To the world, her life looked perfect. But behind the curated social media posts and smiling photos was a betrayal so deep, so gut-wrenching, that it would end in bloodshed. The signs were there, subtle at first. A lingering glance, whispered conversations, the uneasy feeling in her gut that something wasn't right. But Jade ignored them, convinced that Malik, the man she had loved for 4 years, was about to propose. She had no idea that the diamond ring she dreamed of was never meant for her. One moment, she was envisioning forever. The next, she was standing in a pool of blood, hands shaking, chest heaving, heart pounding in disbelief. The person she trusted the most had destroyed her. And in a single moment of blinding rage, she made sure that betrayal would never happen again. This isn't just a case of heartbreak, it's a lesson in deception, obsession, and the dark side of love. Malik and Janelle's affair wasn't just a betrayal, it was a ticking time bomb. And when it finally exploded, it left one woman dead and another in handcuffs. How did a seemingly perfect relationship turn into a deadly scandal? What led a successful influencer to commit a brutal murder? And most importantly, could this have been avoided? This is Secret in the Dark, where we expose the shocking, twisted, and downright chilling cases that make you question everything. Stay with us until the end, because this one is going to leave you speechless. Jade Thompson and Malik Carter were the kind of couple people envied. Their love story played out like a modern fairy tale, one filled with candlelit dinners, spontaneous weekend getaways, and picture-perfect moments that had Jade's thousands of social media followers swooning. Jade, a rising influencer in the Texas beauty and lifestyle scene, had built a brand around her seemingly perfect life. Her followers adored her fashion tips, her travel vlogs, and most of all, her relationship with Malik. The way he held her hand in every photo, the heartfelt captions about their love, the expensive gifts he showered her with, it all painted the image of a man hopelessly in love. Malik was everything a woman could ask for, tall, charismatic, and financially stable. At 34, he had built a successful career in real estate, making smart investments that afforded him a lavish lifestyle. He and Jade were Houston's it couple, always dressed to impress, always turning heads wherever they went. But in the background, always just a step behind, was Janelle Thompson. Janelle was Jade's twin, but despite sharing the same face, they were nothing alike. Where Jade was polished and picture-perfect, Janelle was wild and unpredictable. Jade curated a life of elegance and romance, Janelle thrived in chaos, living on the edge, never one to settle down. Growing up, their mother always said Janelle was the fire and Jade was the water. Jade was the responsible one, the planner, the one who followed the rules. Janelle, on the other hand, was rebellious, the one who got caught sneaking out, the one who lived for the thrill of the moment. For years, Jade and Janelle had been inseparable, two halves of the same whole. But as they grew older, their differences became more pronounced. Jade had a vision for her life, a stable home, a loving husband, a family of her own. Janelle had no interest in any of that. At first, Janelle admired Jade's relationship with Malik from afar. She watched the way he looked at her sister, the way he spoiled her, the way he showed up with flowers just because. She saw the kind of love Jade had and, for the first time in her life, she wanted it. But admiration turned into something far more dangerous. Janelle was a storm, the kind of woman who could pull you in before you even realized you were drowning. She was reckless, impulsive, and always hungry for something more. Unlike Jade, who built her life on discipline and control, Janelle lived for chaos. And that chaos was exactly what Malik found himself craving. It started with stolen moments, the kind that could be brushed off as meaningless. A lingering touch when Janelle passed him a drink at a family gathering. A flirtatious comment disguised as a joke. A knowing glance across the room when no one was looking. At first, Malik told himself he was imagining it. That Janelle was just playful by nature. But deep down, he knew better. He could feel the tension building between them, thick in the air every time they were in the same room. It was the way she licked her lips when she spoke to him, the way her body leaned just a little too close when they talked, the way her eyes lingered on him in a way that wasn't sisterly at all. The first real moment happened on a humid summer night. Jade had hosted a small get-together at their apartment, inviting close friends and family. Janelle showed up in a tight red dress that hugged her curves in ways Malik couldn't ignore. Throughout the night, she kept finding ways to get close to him. Her hand on his thigh when she sat beside him. Her lips grazing his ear when she whispered a joke. The way she let her fingers trail down his arm when she laughed. Jade, ever the perfect hostess, was too distracted to notice. But Malik noticed. He noticed everything. And when Jade left the room to grab more wine, Janelle made her move. She cornered him in the dimly lit hallway, her perfume thick in the air, her breath warm against his skin. "Tell me you don't want this," she whispered, her fingers playing with the buttons of his shirt. Malik should have walked away. He should have stopped it right then and there. But he didn't. Instead, he grabbed her wrist, his grip tight, his breathing heavy. "You're playing a dangerous game." Janelle smirked. "Then play it with me." And just like that, the dam broke. That night, while Jade slept in the next room, Malik and Janelle gave in to the temptation that had been brewing for months. The sex was raw, urgent, and reckless. Janelle was everything Jade wasn't, uninhibited, daring, eager to push the boundaries. She was a fire, and Malik was more than willing to burn. After that first time, there was no going back. They met in secret, hotel rooms, late-night drives, even in Jade's own apartment when she was away. Malik became addicted to Janelle's body, the thrill of sneaking around, the risk of getting caught. Guilt? There was none. The only thing keeping him with Jade was stability, her calmness, her devotion, their perfect public image. But in the dark, when no one was watching, it was Janelle he craved. But Janelle wanted more. She was done sneaking around, done being the side piece. She wanted Malik, all to herself. "You have to leave her," she told him one night, her nails digging into his skin. "I don't want to keep hiding." Malik kissed her hard, hands tangled in her hair. "I will. Just give me time." Janelle pulled back, her eyes flashing with frustration. "You keep saying that." "I won't disappoint you," he promised. But as Valentine's Day approached, Janelle was done waiting. And Malik was about to prove just how far he was willing to go. Jade Thompson had spent the last few weeks floating in a haze of excitement, completely unaware that her world was about to shatter into pieces. She had seen the signs. Malik had been acting strange, more distant than usual. He was on his phone constantly, leaving the room to take calls, sending hushed texts when he thought she wasn't looking. He started disappearing for hours without explanation. His kisses weren't the same. His touch felt rehearsed, absent. Jade noticed it all. But instead of letting her suspicions spiral into fear, she convinced herself it was something beautiful. A surprise proposal. She had been waiting for this moment for years. Malik was the love of her life, the man she believed would be her husband, the future father of her children. They had built a life together, for years of love, laughter, and the kind of relationship that people envied. They had been through ups and downs, but she never once questioned his loyalty. And so, despite the nagging feeling in her gut, she ignored the late nights, the secrecy, the tension in his voice when she asked where he had been. She filled in the gaps with fairy tale endings, convincing herself that Malik was just planning something big. Jade had even confided in the one person she trusted most, her twin sister, Janelle. "I think Malik's going to propose," Jade had gushed one night, eyes glowing with happiness. "I can feel it. He's been so secretive lately. And Valentine's Day is coming up. I just know it's going to happen." Janelle had smiled. A small, knowing smile. "Really? What makes you think that?" Jade laughed, twirling a strand of hair between her fingers. "I saw a jewelry store bag in his car the other day. And he's been so weird. He's nervous, I can tell. That's why I know it's a ring." Janelle had nodded, sipping her wine. "Wow, that's amazing, Jade. I'm really happy for you." Looking back, Jade would remember the way Janelle's fingers trembled slightly around the stem of the glass. The way her eyes flickered, just for a second, with something unreadable. But in that moment, Jade had been too wrapped up in her own excitement to notice. She had no idea she was being played. No idea she was gushing about the love of her life to the very woman who was tearing her world apart. The night was perfect. Jade had spent the whole day getting ready, convinced that this was going to be her moment. She wore the red dress Malik once told her he loved, the one that hugged her curves in all the right places. She had gone to the salon, gotten her nails done, her hair styled, her makeup flawless. Every detail was perfect. She wanted to look breathtaking when Malik finally got down on one knee. Her heart was pounding with anticipation. She replayed the scene in her head over and over again, Malik pulling out the ring, her gasping in shock, saying yes through happy tears, the way he'd sweep her into his arms and promise her forever. Jade had imagined every detail. But nothing could have prepared her for what actually happened. The restaurant was intimate, dimly lit with soft jazz playing in the background. A table for 3 was set, Jade, Janelle, and Malik. Jade found it odd that Janelle was even there, but she didn't question it. After all, she and Janelle shared everything. If anything, she thought maybe Malik wanted her twin to witness the special moment. Maybe he wanted her to record it, to capture the memory forever. And then, it happened. Malik stood up, reaching into his jacket pocket. Jade's breath caught. "Oh my God, this is it. He's proposing. This is happening." Her pulse was racing, hands trembling slightly as she smiled at him, waiting. Malik pulled out a small velvet box. Jade's lips parted, her chest rising and falling with excitement. She glanced at Janelle, who sat motionless, her face unreadable. Then, in the span of mere seconds, the moment shifted. Malik took a deep breath. And instead of turning to Jade, he turned to Janelle. Jade's smile faltered. Time slowed. Malik sank down onto one knee, right in front of Janelle. Jade couldn't breathe. She felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, like her body had turned to stone. The words he spoke felt like knives slicing through her chest. "Janelle, from the moment I met you, I knew you were special." Jade's ears were ringing. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Janelle covered her mouth in mock surprise, tears brimming in her eyes. Jade's entire world spun. Malik opened the box, revealing the diamond ring, the same one Jade had been dreaming about. The one she thought was meant for her. Her stomach twisted violently. Janelle gasped, her voice breathless. "Oh my God. Malik." Jade's vision blurred. Then she heard it. The final betrayal. "Yes." Janelle's voice was soft but clear, full of emotion. Malik slid the ring onto her finger, his face glowing with happiness. Jade felt like she was going to be sick. People around them clapped, oblivious to the devastation radiating from her body. Jade sat frozen, watching her twin sister and boyfriend embrace in front of her, the engagement ring glistening on Janelle's hand. A scream built in her throat, but it wouldn't come out. Her hands clenched into fists, nails digging into her palms so hard she thought she'd draw blood. The humiliation burned through her like fire. Betrayal. Rage. Heartbreak. Her entire life had been a lie. The man she loved had been sleeping with her sister. The woman she trusted most had stolen everything from her. The pain was unbearable. And then, the emotions shifted. Rage overtook sorrow. Fire replaced heartbreak. Jade didn't cry. She didn't run out in tears like the movies. She stood up, slowly, deliberately. Janelle and Malik were still wrapped in their twisted embrace when Jade turned and walked out of the restaurant, her entire body shaking. She didn't say a word. She didn't scream. She simply left. But as she stepped out into the cold night air, her mind was already racing. They think they got away with this. They think I'm just going to let this slide. Jade inhaled deeply, her chest rising and falling. They have no idea what's coming. And with that, she walked into the darkness, already planning the storm she was about to unleash. Jade had never known rage like this. She had experienced heartbreak before, disappointment, betrayal, but nothing compared to the raw, animalistic fury coursing through her veins as she stormed out of that restaurant. Her hands shook violently, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps as she forced herself to keep walking, each step feeling heavier than the last. She didn't know where she was going, her mind was clouded with red-hot fury, blinding, suffocating. But she knew one thing. She wasn't done. She needed answers. She needed to face him. Jade didn't even remember the drive home. 1 second, she was outside the restaurant, body trembling. The next, she was kicking open the front door of the apartment she shared with Malik, her entire body vibrating with uncontrollable anger. He was already there, standing by the kitchen counter, a glass of whiskey in hand. He didn't look surprised to see her. Didn't even look guilty. He just exhaled, tilting his head slightly, like he had been expecting this. "Jade," he sighed, voice low and tired, as if he was the victim. Jade didn't care. "What the hell was that, Malik?" she screamed, voice cracking from the sheer force of it. She was shaking, her heart slamming against her ribs so hard it hurt. Malik ran a hand down his face, exhaling through his nose. "I didn't want you to find out like that," he said, as if that was the problem. Jade's hands balled into fists. "Are you serious right now?" she spat. "You proposed to my sister. In front of me. After spending 4 years pretending to love me." Malik's expression remained calm, too calm. "That's not fair, Jade," he muttered. "I did love you." Jade let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Loved me? Then why were you screwing my sister behind my back? Why didn't you just tell me? Why string me along?" Malik sighed again, setting his drink down. "I didn't plan for this to happen," he admitted. "I tried to stop it. I tried to do the right thing. But I loved Janelle. I chose Janelle." His words sliced through her like a knife. "I chose Janelle." Jade's whole body tensed. "And what about me?" she whispered, voice raw with pain. Malik shrugged. "You'll be fine. You're strong." That was it. No remorse. No apology. Nothing. Just a simple, careless dismissal. Jade felt the blood drain from her face. The walls were closing in. The room was suffocating. She turned and walked out before she did something she couldn't take back. But in her gut, she already knew, this wasn't over. Jade drove straight to Janelle's apartment, her grip so tight on the steering wheel that her knuckles turned white. Her mind was a storm, flashes of Malik's cold, dismissive words, the memory of Janelle's fake, gasping surprise when Malik proposed, the years of trust that had all been a lie. Her hands were still trembling when she pounded on the door. Seconds later, Janelle opened it. She was still wearing the same dress, still had the ring glistening on her finger. And she was smirking. Jade's stomach twisted violently. "You came," Janelle said casually, leaning against the doorframe. Jade shoved past her, storming into the apartment. "I don't have time for your games," she snapped, chest rising and falling rapidly. "I want the truth." Janelle crossed her arms, tilting her head slightly. "The truth?" Jade's breath hitched. "How long?" Janelle shrugged. "A little over a year." Jade's whole body stiffened. "A year?" Janelle's smirk widened. "At first, I felt guilty," she said, voice dripping with false sincerity. "But then I realized, you don't deserve Malik." Jade's pulse pounded in her ears. "What?" she whispered. Janelle stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You're boring, Jade. Predictable. The perfect girlfriend, always doing everything right. Malik was dying for something more exciting. And guess what? I gave him that." Jade's throat tightened. "I didn't just steal your man," Janelle continued, voice laced with cruelty. "He chose me. He was never going to marry you." Jade's vision blurred. She had prepared for a fight, an argument, something. But not this. Not Janelle smirking in her face, relishing in her pain. And that was the breaking point. Jade didn't remember making the decision. Didn't register the movement. Her body acted on pure instinct, rage, heartbreak, humiliation twisting into something monstrous. Before she knew it, her hands were gripping the heavy glass vase from the side table. Janelle's smirk disappeared. "Jade." Crack. The vase shattered against the side of Janelle's skull. She staggered, eyes wide in shock. Blood. Jade saw it before she even realized what she had done. A deep, red streak trailing down the side of Janelle's forehead. Janelle let out a strangled gasp. Jade didn't stop. Crack. The second blow was harder. More violent. The sound of glass and bone colliding sent a sickening echo through the apartment. Janelle screamed, stumbling backward, hands reaching up to clutch her head. But Jade wasn't done. She lunged, grabbing her sister by the hair, slamming her against the wall with everything she had. The impact was brutal. Janelle let out a sharp, choking sound, her body going limp for a second. Jade pulled back. Then slammed her head again. And again. And again. Until the screaming stopped. Until the struggling stopped. Until the only sound in the room was Jade's ragged breathing. She finally let go, stepping back, hands coated in blood. Janelle's body slid to the floor, her head lolling to the side. Her eyes were open. But they were empty. Jade's pulse pounded. Her chest heaved. She stared down at her twin's lifeless body, a deep, horrible realization settling over her like a suffocating weight. She had done it. She had killed Janelle. And there was no coming back from this. Malik pulled into Janelle's apartment complex, heart racing with anticipation. They had been texting back and forth all night, finalizing their plans to meet. He had promised her they would celebrate their engagement properly, just the two of them, away from the prying eyes of social media, away from the judgment of others. He had expected Janelle. There were no lights shining from Janelle's windows, no music playing, nothing to signal that she was even awake, and Jade's car was packed outside. His phone buzzed. It was their last message exchange. She had texted him not long ago. "Come quick. We need to talk." A sinking feeling settled in his stomach. He picked up his pace, jogging to the door. The moment he turned the handle and pushed it open, his entire body went cold. The apartment smelled of blood. Janelle's body was sprawled across the floor, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. The blood pooling around her was still fresh, glistening under the dim glow of the streetlight filtering through the window. And standing right above her, hands trembling, was Jade. Her breathing was erratic, her wide, tear-filled eyes darting between Malik and the lifeless body on the floor. Her hands were smeared with red. The shattered remains of a vase were scattered across the floor. The wall behind Janelle was streaked with blood. Malik couldn't move. He couldn't speak. The sight of Janelle's still, vacant eyes sent a wave of nausea crashing over him. He staggered back, gripping the doorframe for support. Jade finally met his gaze. Her lips parted like she wanted to explain, but nothing came out. Malik had seen her angry before, seen her hurt, but this? This was something else. This was pure devastation. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers shaking as he dialed. 911, what's your emergency? His voice barely came out. I need the police. Now. My fiancé is, he choked on the word. She's dead. She's dead. The operator was speaking, asking questions, but Malik couldn't process anything. His vision blurred as he looked back at Jade. She didn't run. She didn't beg. She just stood there, tears rolling down her cheeks as the sound of sirens filled the night. By the time the police arrived, everything moved in a blur. Jade was forced to the ground, handcuffed, her rights read to her as officers swarmed the apartment. She didn't resist. Malik could barely breathe as the paramedics confirmed what he already knew, Janelle was gone. Gone. Jade, the woman he had once loved, the woman who had been his safe haven for years, had destroyed everything in a single night of uncontrollable rage. Her career as an influencer. Gone. Her carefully crafted image. Shattered. Her future. Over. And the worst part? She didn't even try to defend herself. The trial was a media circus. The moment the story hit the news, it spread like wildfire. An influencer with a picture-perfect life, a shocking affair, a twisted betrayal, and a murder that turned sister against sister. It was the kind of scandal people couldn't look away from. Jade's mugshot was plastered on every major news outlet. Her old pictures, the glamorous vacations, the designer outfits, the smiling selfies with Malik, were dug up and dissected. Everyone had an opinion. Some saw her as a woman scorned, driven to madness by the ultimate betrayal. Others called her unhinged, dangerous, a narcissist who couldn't handle losing the spotlight to her twin. In the courtroom, prosecutors painted her as a jealous, vengeful woman who couldn't accept that Malik had chosen Janelle. They described the murder in gruesome detail, emphasizing the brutality of it all, the repeated blows, the force of her attack, the lack of restraint. Jade's defense team argued temporary insanity. They described the emotional toll of the betrayal, the way her entire world had crumbled in a matter of minutes. They portrayed her as a woman who had lost control in a single, tragic moment, one she could never take back. The jury sat in silence, watching clips of Jade from her old social media videos, comparing the confident, stylish woman she once was to the broken shell of a person sitting before them now. She barely reacted as witnesses took the stand. Malik, his voice hollow, recalling the moment he walked into that apartment. Her parents, struggling to reconcile their love for both daughters. Psychologists analyzing her mental state. Days stretched into weeks. Testimonies turned into debates. The public picked sides. And then, finally, the verdict. Jade stood as the jury returned, her hands tightly clenched together. The room was silent. The air was thick with tension. Guilty of second-degree murder. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Jade didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just stared ahead, empty, hollow, as the judge sentenced her to 25 years in prison. As she was led away in handcuffs, she caught a glimpse of Malik one last time. He didn't look at her. He just sat there, head in his hands, as the weight of everything finally came crashing down. Jade had once thought her life was perfect. Now, she would spend the rest of it remembering the moment everything fell apart. Some betrayals cut so deep, they leave scars that never heal. But in this case, the wounds weren't just emotional, they were fatal. Jade Thompson's story isn't just about love gone wrong. It's about how secrets fester, how obsession grows, and how unchecked emotions can push even the most composed person past the point of no return. She trusted Malik. She trusted Janelle. And they shattered her in the most brutal way possible. But was this truly a crime of passion? Did Jade snap in a single moment of uncontrollable rage, or was this tragedy always lurking beneath the surface, just waiting for the right spark? Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think she deserved 25 years behind bars? Or was the betrayal so deep, so unforgivable, that her reaction was inevitable? Let us know in the comments, was justice served, or was Jade just another victim of love turned deadly? If you love shocking true crime stories that leave you questioning everything, make sure you subscribe to Secret in the Dark. We bring you the darkest, most twisted, and most jaw-dropping cases every time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.